Academy students, welcome to another class of Hunger Games history. Today, we will be talking about the 5th annual Hunger Games. The events of this year required the law implemented in the 3rd Hunger Games to be rewritten. Once stating the prohibition to engage in a physical fight with another tribute before the arena stage, the law now specified that any kind of harm, physical or not, was strictly prohibited. It all started during the trip to the capital. Unlike previous years, this roster featured a large number of tributes under the age of 15. The fear was visible, especially in the younger ones, some frozen ever since hearing their name being called on the reaping. Others were uncontrollably shaking. In the second wagon, the situation was worse, the red from the blood still painting the wooden floor and the straw placed inside, forcing tributes to think of the fate that inevitably awaited them. Dallas, the male tribute from District 10, with his friendly and welcoming personality, had noticed the restlessness of the younger tributes, and spent the whole trip attempting to distract them with stories about his district. He told the others how that environment was not that different from his home, making jokes about how the strong smell could be even worse in some farms of District 10. He explained the dried blood as possibly being from some animal injury, instead of feeding the idea that it could still be the blood from the tribute Joshua killed. Being the oldest tribute in the group, the others listened attentively to what Dallas had to say. Despite being worried himself, the situation they were in was familiar to Dallas, who couldn't help compare them being sent in a cattle car to the arena to a herd of cattle being transported to the slaughterhouse, as if he already knew the process of how things would go. By not showing his worries and entertaining the rest with stories, the remaining tributes found a sense of comfort and false security that drove them to want to stay close to Dallas. Inside the animal pen, the tributes from the first cattle wagon soon noticed a small audience surrounding Dallas. The boy was now telling them how back in his district, sleeping in an animal pen was something kids would sneak out of their homes to do, especially on colder nights, if you did not have the privilege of owning a good blanket. He would tell them how in District 10 it was seen as something fun to do, and that they could try to look at it the same way now. Tributes from both wagons watched how Dallas collected some of the bedding scattered around the pen, demonstrating how to turn it into a somewhat comfortable place to sleep. In the first few hours of the night, Latio, the boy from District 9, succumbed to his hunger. The boy had been brought to the capital already in a terrible state of malnourishment, a result of the living conditions he had in his district. The stress he had experienced ever since being raped only aggravated his condition. Seeing one of them die all of a sudden made all the kids agitated, panicking over the possibility of the same happening to them. The whole scene really upset Dallas, making him realize that despite his seemingly bad conditions back at home, in comparison with other people in other districts, could have been considered lucky just for the fact that he at least had access to some food. This did not match his philosophy, from being raised under the motto that it was his district's duty to feed Panem, more proof to how Panem only meant a small few. Noticing how their surroundings were infested with rats, raccoons, and other opportunistic animals, the boy had an idea. Managing to catch a rat by its tail and knocking it unconscious by hitting its head against the floor, Dallas was now determined to feed the younger and weaker tributes, some who seemed to not even remember the last time they had a decent meal. He would skin the rats with his own hands and separate them as best as he could to feed all the young tributes equally. Observing the whole scene, some of the older tributes accused Dallas of being unfair for not distributing the food to everyone. Larcus, the boy from District 4, was the one starting all the accusations, followed by his district partner Hyria. Larcus was angry, claiming that he should too have access to food, no matter his age or condition. Hyria added that by only feeding some, Dallas was creating an unfair advantage, as some tributes would go into the arena with more energy than others. Nadia, Dallas's district partner, and Ragusa, from District 1, stood up to defend the boy from 10, disagreeing with the arguments given by the District 4 tributes. As the argument escalated, the tributes could hear the steps of a couple of peacekeepers approaching the pen to investigate what the noise was about. Not wanting people to fight, and much less to catch the attention of the guards, Dallas agreed to the request, even if it meant there would be no food left for himself. In order to satisfy everyone, Dallas spent most of the following hours catching rats and mice, giving them a quick death and separating the meat as best as he could without tools. At first, he attempted to be inconspicuous at his job, worried that he would be punished if peacekeepers found out. But instead, the guards found it amusing to see someone from the districts act exactly as they expected, behaving like an animal, hunting another. Later into the night, a couple of tributes complained that they felt sick. At the time, it was thought to be the effect of dehydration. After all, the tributes did not have access to water throughout the days-long trip to the capital, and the summer temperatures were kept high, even throughout the night. But something was not adding up. The two sick tributes were Fibron and Lana, from districts 8 and 12, the weaker-looking ones, who Dallas had fed first, and the most. At that point, Dallas had taken a break in catching rats, and was trying to get some much-needed sleep before the games. He is woken up by Larcus, who now complained that he and others were still hungry, and that they needed more meat. He was backed up by the tribute from District 2, who just like Larcus and Hyria, were in better shape than average, but on the other hand, not as used to go without food for so long. This time, Dallas refused their request, claiming that he needed to rest for a couple of hours and that he could try to catch something more at dawn, before they were taken to the arena. When Larcus retaliates by pointing out that even the younger tributes were not feeling well and likely needed more food, he puts 2 and 2 together. "Unless that is exactly what you wanted," Larcus said. During the dark days, rats competed with humans for the little food available. Poison used by the capital to get rid of the rodents was still scattered around the city, including near the animal pen, eaten in containers out of a tribute's reach. The poison was stronger than your usual rodenticide, given the severe vermin problem at the time, though a genetic mutation had helped them become more resistant or even immune to the effects of poison, giving the rats time to roam around and be caught by Dallas. The poison left in their bloodstream would be enough to give secondary poisoning to the tributes who had consumed their meat, and in the fragile condition most of them had come from the districts, it would not take long for the poison to take effect. Larcus was not aware of the specifics, but he could feel something was wrong. He accuses Dallas of poisoning the others, claiming that he knew something was wrong with the animals, or that he tainted the meat somehow, to get rid of the competition early. Upon the accusations, chaos instilled in the animal pen, with some of the tributes starting to worry about being poisoned, while others found Larcus's words to be completely unfair to someone who had only helped them feel less hungry. The younger tributes were now too weak to react. Some already passed out. Larcus only did not start a fight with Dallas right there, because the couple from District 7 got between the two, alerting them of the peacekeepers nearby. District 7 tributes, Ragusa from District 1 and Nadia from District 10, were on Dallas's side, while all tributes from Districts 2 and 4 believed that he had ill intentions. The two groups argued back and forth, until Trista, the girl from 7, claimed that everyone there was a lost cause anyway, and that there was no point in fighting. Poisoned or not, nothing would change their fate in the Hunger Games, and that for some, it could even be considered an act of mercy, compared to whatever horrors could happen in the arena. Grunting in frustration, Larcus steps away. Even if Trista was right, the situation would still favor Dallas, as every tribute had eaten at least a bit of the meat, except for him. He screams for Dallas to go catch another rat and eat it himself if he truly did not do anything wrong, before leaving with the rest of his group to the other end of the animal pen. Dallas remained silent, unsure of how to feel. He stayed awake the rest of the night, unable to sleep, as he watched the health of many of the younger tributes deteriorate with each hour. 7 tributes ended up passing away that night. Tributes were brought to the arena in the early morning. Most showed obvious signs of poisoning, with some not even able to stand up. After the success of last year, capital citizens expected another show, another full arena. Due to Dallas's acts, only 16 tributes were left at the time of the games. The strongest, however, seemed prepared to fight for their lives, especially with how their frustration grew with last night events. Larcus and Dallas were the first to each grab a weapon, one fueled by hate, other fueled by fear. Just minutes before, as they awaited the starting signal, their eyes met, and fury took over Larcus's expression. Having now grabbed the spear, Larcus does not hesitate in throwing it right at Nadia's chest, Dallas's district partner, who had followed after him. Seeing the kill happen right in front of his eyes, Dallas froze. But time did not allow him to process his feelings, as he soon realized how Granita, the girl from District 2, was running in his direction with a weapon in hand. With Larcus now busy retrieving his spear from Nadia's body, Dallas takes the opportunity to run away, towards the arena stands. As he ran, he almost tripped on Sunbay, the little boy from District 5, who, suffering from the poison, was unable to move from his starting position and was now fallen down on the floor. He does not take much longer to succumb. Ragusa, the girl from District 1, who had defended Dallas the night before, was the next one attempting to grab a weapon from the pile. However, now that Larcus had his spear back in his hand, he did not hesitate in stopping her attempt with another accurate throw to her chest. At around the same time, Nimbus from District 6 also fell down as he convulsed in response to the poison, passing away shortly after. Seeing how Larcus was still standing strong, despite the poison effects, other tributes knew to be wary of him. Seeing the boy retrieve his spear, the male tribute from District 7 quickly grabbed a machete, which he used to attempt to attack Larcus. However, he did not expect his district partner Hyria to be watching his move, having in hand a spear of her own. She uses it to eliminate the boy from the competition before he could even approach Larcus. A few more minutes was all it took for both tributes from District 3 to also succumb to the poison. By then, few tributes were left, the older ones, more resistant to the poison due to their size, and 3 young kids, who were all lying motionless on the arena floor. Once again armed, Larcus and Hyria took a look at their surroundings, when they noticed some movement in one of the tributes that were lying down. In this early stage of the Hunger Games, no health monitoring devices were given to the tributes, making it difficult for the pair to figure out who was still alive and who had succumbed to the poison. With barely any strength left in her body, Trista, from 7, couldn't prevent herself from puking, revealing herself to the couple from District 4. Larcus then delivers the final blow. Receiving looks from the other weakened tributes, who Larcus could feel judgment from after having ended so coldly the life of someone defenseless, the boy retaliates with insults. He speaks loud and clear for all remaining tributes to listen, letting everyone know that the only reason he attacked Trista was due to how she had the nerves to defend Dallas the night before, after his despicable acts. The same acts that had put the girl in that state to begin with. It is then that Larcus had an idea. Walking back to the center of the arena, he uses it as his stage to tell everyone what happened the night before. Raising his voice enough for the cameras to pick up, he accuses Dallas of poisoning every tribute on purpose, putting emphasis on how he believes Dallas had planned it all from the beginning, luring the younger tributes with his stories in order to make them trust him, to then put his plan to action. Seeing what Larcus was doing, Dallas, who had climbed up the bleachers to stay as far away from him as he could, began to panic, worried about the consequences such claims could bring. Seeing the boy overwhelmed, Granita uses the opportunity to attempt to strike at him, now that she finally managed to climb up the bleachers as she followed Dallas. Out of instinct, the boy quickly raised his cleaver upon noticing the girl, clashing it against his opponent's blade. Feeling her hold getting weaker, Dallas quickly removes his blade, making Granita stumble forward. He then strikes her in the neck, leading her now lifeless body to fall down the stands. Observing his actions from afar, Larcus takes the opportunity to paint Dallas in an even worse light, continuing to preach to his invisible crowd while Hyria stood by his side. His words were now slurred, with the boy starting to feel more the effect of the poison. Copper, from District 1, snuck up on the couple while they focused on Dallas, managing to grab an axe he uses to hit Hyria in the back. Seeing his district partner fall down, Larcus takes a solid moment to process what happened. The injury takes down Hyria pretty quickly, with Encelia, from District 11, also passing away shortly after, from the poison's aftermath. Copper then attempts to retrieve his weapon, giving enough time for Larcus to snap out of it and enter a state of anger that leads him to drop his spear and start punching the boy. Even with both tributes suffering from the poison symptoms, the fight took longer than expected, with Larcus eventually emerging victorious. However, now even further exhausted and weak, he was aware that he would not be able to resist the poison much longer. Now that the capital already knew the story, it was time for Larcus to take action and take care of Dallas. Larcus staggered as he walked towards Dallas, struggling to keep his balance while uttering all kinds of insults and provocations directed at the boy. Not having the strength to climb up, Larcus stood there from below as he continued mumbling. From the top of the bleachers, Dallas attempted to not let Larcus's words get to his head when he saw another tribute convulsing. Daucus, from District 11, was unable to resist the poison any longer. Soon after him, the boy from District 2 followed, leaving only Larcus and Dallas to fight for the title. The two stayed in their positions for some time, with Larcus surprisingly still resisting the poison, despite looking absolutely miserable. As for Dallas, his anger kept growing the more words came out of Larcus's mouth. He waited for the poison to do its work, but after a while, the accusations became unbearable. Deciding to face him personally, Dallas climbed down the stairs, cleaver in hand. Larcus had dropped his weapon, knowing to be too weak to throw it in his current condition. With the poison taking over his body, even his fists felt too heavy to raise, but he refused to give Dallas any satisfaction. Seeing his opponent approach him, Larcus laughed, proceeding to spit towards Dallas. That was the last straw for the District 10 tribute, after having to stand there and hear all that Larcus had to say about him. Once the distance between the two was closed, Dallas grabbed Larcus's collar and turned him around to slit his throat open. After letting the body drop to the floor, Dallas was then announced victor of the 5th annual Hunger Games. Indirectly or not, Dallas was responsible for the deaths of 16 tributes in total, counting those who perished from the poison. To this day, his true intentions are still heavily debated. Academy students, in your opinion, is Dallas guilty or innocent of his actions? Did he truly have good intentions, or was everything planned from the beginning?